Hey guys, how are you? It's Wes. You know. So we're doing more iPad art. I'm trying to dedicate more time into really buckling down, learning how to use this bad boy. I have my 3 monitor setup that I normally use, big touch monitor, all this stuff. But I think really honing in and learning iPad art is going to help take my stuff to the next level. And I wanted to share what I consider right now to be my favorite mobile painting app. I also have a Samsung Galaxy, what is this? The Note 10 Plus. It has the stylus pen and everything. And I've been able to actually use the same software on this phone as I do on the iPad. And that software is Infinite Painter. So I think I have the stats up here right now. So for this painting in particular, it took me 1 hour, 7 minutes of active brush time. I think I recorded about an hour and 20 minutes of footage, but what does it say? Like 5 undos and then over 3,000 brush strokes. So really interesting that it keeps track of that type of stuff. But there's a lot of things I really like about Infinite Painter. And to be fair, I know I did my Procreate video. I'm liking that more and more as well as I'm using it also. But let's talk about what I really enjoy about Infinite Painter. And it's something that works on both Mac and Android. Or iOS, I should say, and Android. And it's really, really interesting. But yeah, we have this landscape, mountains, cool lighting, stuff like that. I really wanted to work with some gradient maps and kind of see what I could maybe cook up with that. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's talk about Infinite Painter and how much fun we can have on our mobile device. All right, here we are. So yeah, Infinite Painter. It's something that like I said, I've used on my phone, which is kind of a not recommended way to use a mobile painting app. It's just I don't know. I'm spoiled from having a 22-inch touch monitor that I work on professionally. So using a 10-inch screen is very difficult for the way I like to work. But the iPad is a nice kind of middle ground because you go from the, or I said 10-inch screen on the, there's no way my phone's a 10-inch screen. Good Lord. It's the Note 10 Plus, but yeah, there's no way that's a 10-inch screen. My iPad is probably a 10-inch screen. And that seems to be a little more doable. I still had the learning curve of doing this mobile art thing. It's just, I'm not a big sketchbook guy. I don't have that. Whenever I'm either sitting down at a canvas or I'm sitting down at my computer monitor to do my stuff. So the act of having something and holding it in my hand and working on that directly still feels a little foreign to me, which is kind of a funny thing to say, but it just is what it is. And really, the reason why I'm liking Infinite Painter a little bit more than Procreate is the brushes just out of the box. I have a favorites list that I made of my favorite brushes that you're seeing me use here, but they feel a little more painterly. They have an automatic blend that I think Procreate, at least in my opinion, Procreate is a little more exact. So that can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on what your workflow is. Now, I know you can probably set up Procreate to work exactly like Infinite Painter, and vice versa. I bet you can get Infinite Painter to feel exactly like Procreate. In fact, I don't know which one came first. Someone who's more knowledgeable in the mobile art scene, please let me know. But I think Procreate kind of invented the whole use 2 fingers to, double tap to undo and then hold your finger down to do color picking and that type of stuff. I think Procreate did that first. I mean, for sure, correct me if I'm wrong on that, because my knowledge on the mobile side of things is not nearly as vast as my desktop side. But anyway, going from one to the other felt natural. So going from Procreate and all the practice I've put in there did help in Infinite Painter. And I think the more time I put in Infinite Painter is going to help me in Procreate as well. It's just, in tattoo art, they call it time under the gun. Just having the dexterity of holding the thing and looking at the thing and having that You know, how does the Apple Pencil respond and things like that. And I am using the Apple Pencil, by the way, the first generation, I guess. It's not the one that charges on its own, like on the side of the side of the device itself. It's the one that you actually have to plug in. It has the little adapter that came with the iPad. So anyway, by the way, I will say that I am watching the time lapse of this. Normally, whenever I record these voiceovers, I'm just trying to remember what I painted and how I painted, what steps I used and stuff. But the nice thing about this, and Procreate as well, and even now more of the desktop art apps, I know Clip Studio and Rebel 5 and all that stuff, they've added time-lapse features, which are really handy. It's nice to be able to look and see kind of what your process was and things like that. But anyway, first let me kind of cover what the painting was. I'm realizing that I think the real fun part of using this mobile art stuff, it's really great for thumbnailing. It's really great to get started on a prompt. So I don't know if I would like take a complete beginning to end client, you know, the only thing I'm allowed to use is my iPad. I don't think I'd be super thrilled with the final render, like with the final result, just because I don't have enough practice doing those later steps in this. But trying to figure out how to rewind. But anyway, I'm just gonna set this down here so I can focus on talking. See, this is why I don't have stuff in my hands whenever I'm doing these narrations. But anyway, I can see this being really powerful in as far as like thumbnailing and just kind of the blue sky of whatever's on my mind. Can I just kind of jot something out? Does that work? And can I move this over here? A little less refined, a little less dedicated, I guess. It's just more throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. I can see these apps in particular being really great for that. And with whenever I'm just kind of at not an art block necessarily, but you know, I don't want to do a character because I don't want to go through that whole problem solving process and what's the stance and or the perspective and you know what's the camera lens length and all that stuff, like in my mind. I don't want to solve those problems. So usually what I'll do is I'll do some sort of moody mountain. You know, rocks are great because you can get away with a lot doing rocks, and as long as the lighting is good and your color temperatures are right, you're pretty safe in that regard. So here we used a lot of the cool shadows and the warm highlights, which I like. It does do a very good job of making that cool feeling, and that nice bright sun hits the side of a mountain, and you can get some really dramatic angles and stuff. So those are things, it's fun. You can't really be wrong, you know what I mean? It really just comes down to your brushwork and your detail. And I think those are the most fun things to do. And it makes the most sense to work at a smaller scale that way, because you can really just blotch in big shapes and then work with your edges a little bit. Like if you want some clouds, I think I do that here in a little bit. I put more clouds, like some creeping into the foreground and some in the middle of the two mountain ranges. I thought of what is the name of the two statues in Lord of the Rings? The big gate where the two guardians are holding their hands out. I thought about something like that. Like, is there something cool? Like, could a dragon live in between these two mountains? Just kind of, you know what I mean? Like silly, goofy fantasy stuff. But I think it's effective to have that mood whenever you're going into something like this. Anyway, let's talk about Infinite Painter. So, like I said, I do really enjoy the painterly feel. It feels like the brushes are a little more wet, I guess, is a good way to do it. More of that wet on wet alla prima painting, which is like how I like to paint traditionally. Procreate, in my opinion, feels a little bit more like Photoshop. It feels more like you're using stamps, you know, which you are here as well. You're using a stamp image, and then that stamp image repeats, and then based on the amount of repetitions or the amount of opacity or pen pressure or something, it transfers those stamps at a different rate. And technically, I know that's probably what's happening behind the scenes here. It's just, I don't know, they've been able to hide it better. And that's not a knock against Procreate at all. Like, trust me, if you're into design or like vector art and stuff like that, I think Procreate is probably your best bet. That or Clip Studio for mobile. And I haven't had the opportunity to use Clip Studio on mobile, but from what I've seen from some of my design friends, they worship it. They love it to death. So, I've used Clip Studio Desktop though. I'm loving it. But anyway, yeah, Infinite Painter just, it feels nice. It's non-intrusive. The UI doesn't get in the way, really. It did take me a little bit, and I kind of learned the ropes on the Samsung whenever I was going through and kind of learning, oh, where do I find the brush opacity? Where are my layer blending modes? Where can I duplicate a layer? Is there a way to flatten the image? Like a lot of that type of stuff, it still takes a little bit of time for me. You'll see me kind of have some menus open for a little bit, kind of looking through options. I think I wanted to do a merged layer, and then I just couldn't find the easiest way to do that. So I was like, forget it. And then I just made a new layer and just painted on top of it. Now, what's really cool is I'm a big fan, big fan of the Smudge Brushes. And I like them in Procreate as well, because they allow you to use your paint brush, like the brush tip, and use it as a blender. And I think there's a lot of power in that, especially on I think my favorite stuff for that is the wet stucco brush. Any of the stucco brushes, really. Even in Procreate, I love the stucco stuff because it has that kind of weird, rowdy splatter, but it's still controlled. You can kind of know where it's going to go, but there's just enough tooth in that texture to really, that's why with mountains it's so cool to work with, because it's like, there's your mountain texture. Instead of using, oh, I'm going to use a mountain brush, oh, I'm going to use a cloud brush, oh, I'm going to find these like very graphic shape, repetitious, brushes that you can get on a bunch of brush packs to make my landscapes. I want to paint my landscape. Like, I want to get in there and really kind of study the angles, and I want to tell the brush what to do, not the other way around. And I think Infinite Painter has a little bit more of a natural feel, at least to me. Now, I can say with pretty good certainty that with more time with Procreate, I can get there. You know what I mean? Because Procreate, it's a joy to use. Infinite Painter, it's just out of the box easier for me. My mind wraps around it a little better. There's slight tweaks. I don't even use a ton of these features. I basically just use a brush and a smudge tool, and I kind of zoom in and out, and I undo a few times, and that's about it. And that's how I do all my paintings. That's how I work on every digital art program I have, and Lord knows I have too many of them. But I like the way that I work because I can repeat it anywhere. This is even how I do my normal paintings. How I'll do, or normal paintings, listen to me, traditional paintings, non-digital work. This is the same way that I work. I'll kind of jot in some quick mapping. I'll probably do a value pass first, kind of smudge the edges, get those right. Then I'll either wash color in, or what I'll do is I'll just do another pass on top, another layer on top of paint with those values in mind. I'll match the value with the color on the palette, and then put it onto the canvas and just kind of like almost paint by numbers over my already established values, and then just use palette knives or whatever to kind of blend in between. So I'll do that on my digital stuff. You know what I mean? Like it makes sense to me. I can repeat it no matter where I'm painting and what I'm painting on. I kind of paint the same way, and there are so many tools on this that I could, really break out of my shell and try these new methods and stuff. But I don't know. I like what I like, man. This is kind of how I work, and I'm finding peace in it now. And instead of worrying about the how, I'm worrying about the why. Why am I painting this, and what mood do I want? And that's where I think more interesting results are going to come from. And just in my opinion, Infinite Painter gets me there faster. It gets me to where I'm really enjoying the painting process instead of worrying about tackling the UI. Yeah, some more things about this piece. I'm trying to think, like, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I'm looking at it both on my, time lapse that I'm looking at, and I imported it into Photoshop, and I'm kind of looking at it over. It's not quite as vibrant on the computer monitor as it is on my iPad screen, which just goes to show that I need to probably upgrade my computer monitors. But yeah, I mean, the iPad, I just love working on it. I did want to point this out. It's kind of a paper-like, can't remember what they call it. One of those covers or one of those screen protectors that really adds a little bit of grit. I highly recommend those. It really does feel nice. Just putting strokes down, even the pencil strokes, and I'm not a big sketcher, but even putting those strokes down, it was really, really easy and really fun because it just felt right. It felt correct. There was grit. There was some teeth. It felt like I was going against a resistance. Usually with the really slick screen, and that's probably another reason why it's not that I didn't like it on the Samsung Note 10 Plus. It's just harder to use because my stylus is slipping around and, all this stuff, and it's on Gorilla Glass, and it's, it is what it is. But once again, that comes down to dexterity and learning curve, and you can get over that. You can get over that hump for sure. It's just I did not dedicate the time necessary in order to get over that. So that's definitely my doing, or my lack of doing, I should say, more so than like a fault with the device or a fault with the program. Because, I mean, the program's going to do what you tell it to do. I mean, that's the blessing and the curse, right? But yeah, I do enjoy my time with Infinite Painter. It feels fast. I'm going in there, I'm making the smudges, I'm doing the brush work. And what's kind of interesting about this is I used the brush work, but I didn't really rely on any thick impasto brushes. You can see, I think there's a few times where I tried to do some on highlights, and I just didn't like how it looked, which is interesting to me because on my desktop stuff, you guys know me, I'm on Rebel, I'm on Art Rage, I'm on PaintStorm Studio, I'm on all these things, and I love that thick paint look. But on the mobile art, it doesn't quite resonate the same, and I don't know if it's because my face is physically closer to the device, or I don't know, maybe it's just that change of perspective. It's interesting to me. But yeah, I'm really liking the time. I'm using the iPad more and more. I can see it breaking me out of some habits that I ran into with doing artwork on my desktop. The thing is, since it's so big, I can kind of get away with working more loose and getting away with it. But on the iPad, whether Procreate or Infinite Painter, I have to be a little bit more, I have to plan, not a lot, but just be like, okay, why am I making these brush strokes? Why am I drawing these lines? What am I doing? And is it actually aiding the piece or not? And that that's never going to hurt. That's always going to be a benefit. If I'm planning stuff, if every brush stroke matters, it's just going to make for better confidence, and it's going to make for better art in the long run. It just is. But yeah, I do recommend it, man. I should have looked more. I've had Infinite Painter for a while. I think it's like $7, $9, something like that. You can get it on Android. You can get it on iOS. And I will say, totally, if you're on Android, this is definitely my favorite one for Android, because Procreate is only on iOS. Between Procreate and Infinite Painter, it's really, you pick your poison, I think. I mean, this isn't a formal review by any means, but I see why Procreate's so popular. Totally, I get it. And Infinite Painter should be that popular. You know what I mean? Like, they're both outstanding softwares. You can't go wrong, and I think the most expensive one out of the two is $10. You really can't go wrong with $10. Oh my gosh. Just buy both of them. Hell, you'll be happy. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, on Android, there's no contest. I even say that, I'm not sponsored by Art Rage, but I'm a kind of ambassador for them. I just think Infinite Painter is more user friendly than Art Rage is on the Android stuff. But that's just me. Anyway, that's my time, guys. I hope you enjoyed this painting. I had a lot of fun doing it. It was relaxing. At first, I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, this is going to look like garbage. Oh, and there's always a sense of pressure when you're painting for YouTube, because you know people are going to watch this and be like, man, that guy sucks. Um, so hopefully that is not the outcome of this one. But this is fun because I'm looking at it at Photoshop, and I was like, man, I could take this one to final. You know, I could look at this for a minute. I can bring it into Clip Studio. I can use some nice smudge brushes on this. I can get in there a little texture. I can make this thing happen. So anything that is inspiring me to continue to paint, I'm a big fan of. So whatever you pick, whether it's Procreate or Infinite Painter on your iPad, or, you know, if you're on an Android device, Infinite Painter gets a thumbs up from me. I like it. It kind of does whatever you want it to do. And, you know, that's never a bad thing. But that's my time. Be sure to hit me up in the comments. Go find me on socials and all that stuff. And a big shout out to all my Patreons, or patrons on Patreon, I should say. And next time, we're going to be doing a Patreon paint over. I got a few pieces from patrons, and we're going to be looking at those, and it's going to be completely free. Normally, it's behind the paywall for Patreon, which is only $1 a month. It's not a big paywall by any means, but yeah, it's going to be a full, probably multiple hour breakdown of some patrons. They put their art up. We're going to review it. We're going to look at it. We're going to talk about it, discuss it, see the successes, maybe look at what maybe some of the challenges are, and kind of do the full coaching session. So I wanted to do that for the holidays, and kind of give you guys a big gift, you know, a multiple hour full-on lecture that you guys can dig in and really enjoy and go back and study and just have for free. Because I appreciate you guys. 2021's been a crazy year for the YouTube channel. I can't thank you guys enough. We're approaching 3,000 subscribers, and I'm blown away. I love talking to everybody and meeting everybody. And yeah, go out, go make cool stuff, and we will see you next time for that Patreon paint over. Until then, peace.